All right. I went to college down south in the Bible Belt, and there was this man that came to our campus and went to this like super high traffic area where students were walking between classes and started hollering, "You are a sinner. You must repent of your evil ways. The Lord does not hear the prayers of the sinful." And there was this little crowd of students that would always gather around him and just egg him on, like just get there to like rile him up. So it was totally ineffective. Whatever he was going for wasn't working. But I, for some reason, 21-year-old me, really wanted to have an actual conversation with this man because I had a little bit of issue with what he was saying, and I wanted to better understand. So I went into this contentious crowd and said, "Excuse me, I have a question. I was just wondering, you don't even read your Bible, do you?" And he just starts hollering at me, "You can't even talk to me about this." And my response was like, "You didn't even let me finish my sentence. You don't even know what I was going to say. And you should maybe just let me say what I'm going to say here." And that obviously did not work out super well for me. So then I stopped and I said, "We seem to be having a miscommunication here." And y'all, it was magic. He actually stopped, slowed down, and let me talk. And then he responded in a calm tone to me. It was a crazy change that happened. And it was not because I was some really genius 21-year-old. It was actually because I had learned that tactic, and it really stood out to me. I had learned that in a workplace communication class talking about conflict at work. And it struck me as very odd because I thought, grown professionals don't have conflict at work. Why would we be talking about this? But it turns out I was very wrong. Workplace conflict is a common human experience that we are all suffering from. And it's not as contentious or blatantly obvious as that preacher man on campus, 99.99% of the time. It's not that type of a scenario. It's really sneaky. It's really confusing. Sometimes we actually blame it on things like systems and processes, and we don't realize there's a human disconnect happening here. And I believe it's one of the biggest wellness issues we have around isolation, depression, mental health at work. And it's causing mental distraction after work. It's causing tension in our bodies, health issues. And why do I know about this? I know about this because I talk to a lot of people about this specific issue. Because I'm a co-founder of a company that launched here out of Cincinnati a few years ago called Cloverleaf. What we do is automated coaching based on who you are, how do you do your best work, and the same thing about the people around you. How do you better understand them, partner with them, and resolve conflict and turn tense situations into great situations? Now, when I say automated coaching, most people don't understand what that could look like. So here's an actual legit email that I got emailed to me from my own product, coaching me about myself and about my husband. So I just thought it'd be fun to share that one so you can have an example of what this looks like. And we right now are working with organizations all across the globe, a lot of Fortune 100 companies, a lot of small companies as well. So we're serving the whole gamut. And over 90% of our customers say that we increase the effectiveness of their teams. So why is it so effective? Because I spend a lot of time over the past few years, and my team now is spending a lot of time talking to people about what is success for you at work? What is in your way? What is most important to you? Just these like common workplace questions, and people share a lot with us to help us understand this. And I'm here to talk today about how I see this related to wellness and how everyone is suffering from this and everyone can create a better team culture to improve this. But if that sounds a little too hokey pokey and floofy and kumbaya for you, there's an actual hard business case for what I'm talking about today. And there was a company that's really good at business cases and innovation. It's a global conglomerate that has definitely changed the way your life works. They're called Google. Google did a 3-year study of their highest performing teams. What is it that makes for the most innovative teams? What is it that makes for the teams that bring in the most revenue? What is it that makes for, the fastest, strongest teams in our global organization across cultures, all of that? Is it skill set? Is it past performance reviews? Is it size of team? Is it something that we can measure and formulate into a system and then poof, output like the best teams? And what they found, the common denominator for their highest performing teams was actually not numerical. It's this thing called psychological safety, which is an academic term that means it is safe for people to take risks, admit mistakes, ask questions, and share new ideas. It's safe to have different perspectives without fear of negative consequences or being seen as ignorant, incompetent, negative, or disruptive. Now, those are fighting words right there. Feeling seen as ignorant, incompetent, negative, or disruptive. That's an attack on character. That's making this really personal just because somebody has a different perspective. And I want to camp out on this because if it took a 3-year study in one of the most innovative companies in the world to unearth this, that's because it's not our common experience. Most people subconsciously have a fear of being seen as ignorant, incompetent, negative, or disruptive just for asking questions or just for thinking about things differently than their coworkers, which is creating this tension and this stress that we have in our bodies, right? And so in my interviews, talking to prospects, talking to customers about their work experience, a super clear pattern has emerged to me that I now actually pick up on whenever I even just talk to my friends and family about work. This comes up in almost every conversation I have about work. And on the surface, every single human is experiencing stress, anxiety, confusion, or frustration that is really stemming from something about a relationship or multiple relationships at work. It's around the people. But it's not that preacher man on my campus. It's not people saying, you are a problem, right? It's not that. It's sneaky. It's mysterious. It is beneath the surface. And so here's some of the ways I've heard people talk about it. Resistance. We need to make a change, and I am experiencing a lot of resistance from the other team about this. Now that I'm off that team, I can see that was so dysfunctional. I didn't realize it while I was there, but wow, dysfunctional. That new person who's now joined our team, I see they have unrealistic expectations of what we're capable of here. They dropped the ball. I needed to wait on my deliverable from that person so that I could finish my work, and they dropped the ball, and now it's my neck that's on the line here. This one really just shocks me. The amount of times I hear the word incompetent, it's just shocking to me. Man, we keep hiring temps, and they are so incompetent. After 3 times, I just started to question if she was really competent anymore. She just keeps poking holes in my ideas. Every time I make a suggestion, just poking holes in my ideas. I saw that this was going to be an issue. I knew this 6 months ago. I spoke up. I tried to get people on board, but nobody listens to me. No one listened to me. I mean, he's a good guy, but he's just in over his head. Now, don't get me wrong. I really like her. She's cool, but she is not getting what I'm trying to help her understand here. He's trying really hard, but he's not getting it. These last 3 are so interesting to me because they're hinting at what we all really kind of subconsciously realize is happening beneath the surface, which is that as humans, we want to categorize people as good or bad. Like you're either all bad or you're all good. It's really confusing that you could be good, but there's this bad thing, right? And so really we recognize subconsciously in these statements of, oh, he's a good guy or I like her, we recognize that what's really happening is we're making character judgments. And this is beneath the surface. When you make a suggestion at work and someone doesn't agree with it, it feels like they're judging your character. Not consciously, but subconsciously. And when you start to have an issue with someone, you're starting to judge their character, or you're worried that you're going to come across as you're judging their character. And I'm here to tell you, most times, 99.9999% of the time, these issues that are happening are truly not personal. We just can't see the objective thing that's underneath it. So let's talk about what are the objective buckets that these tensions can fall into. The first is the easiest to categorize, which is that we have competing priorities. A real classic example here is sales versus product. Sales comes in and says, hey, we got a great new opportunity. I think if we just, did this thing, we could get this new client. Product, I have some questions about that. Have you thought about what would happen in this scenario? And what do you think about, and what if, and then sales immediately starts just getting exhausted and thinking, man, product, so close-minded. I knew this was going to happen. I came ready for this, right? Meanwhile, product is thinking, sales, my gosh, your head is in the clouds. You're not connected to reality here. You're just after that short-term commission. Ooh, that's a character judgment on greed, right? But what's really, really happening is that sales spends their days talking, phone call after phone call with different people, and they understand the market trends. They understand what is needed to take the company to the next level. They see new opportunities, and they are held responsible to bring in the new revenue so that you can get paid, right? Whereas product, their feet are to the fire on actually wowing the customer once they're in. They have to deliver not just what was sold, but a wow factor on top of that. Quality, timeline, budget, all these things that they have to consider so that you don't lose that new client you just sold, right? So what can you do in this kind of a situation? Like the next time you feel tension rising at work, just pause and ask, what is this role's responsibility? It's not even about the person. It's not even about what's Sarah's responsibility. It's what is this role's responsibility? Oh, okay, now I could have a conversation. I know that you're feeling the pressure of the metrics that we put out for sales this quarter. I also know that you've brought up this kind of an opportunity 3 times in the past. I think you're probably picking up on something. I also have seen this fail, and I want to make sure we don't do that so that we serve your customer well. Boom. What a different conversation that begins, right? It's objective. This one, like I said, there's 2 major buckets. This is the easier one to just objectively see because it's kind of externally defined for you. People have a general understanding of role responsibilities, right? The next one is the bigger, sneakier, trickier one to see, and it is that we have cognitive diversity in humanity. People see things differently. We have different ways of approaching problems. We have different strengths, things we're good at, things we're not good at, blind spots, things that are draining to us. And we have different communication styles, personalities, all of that. And this is something that I keep using the word sneaky because it's really sneaky. We don't even realize in ourselves most of the time that what we're defaulting to and what we're good at. And then we don't even therefore realize because of that, we're starting to think somebody who's doing something different is incompetent, and we're starting to question them. It's all subconscious. So I'm going to pull out a couple of big buckets that these differences often fall into to help you potentially see how this might be playing out in your life. Action-oriented versus analytical. Now, this is a spectrum. You're going to fall on different parts of the spectrum depending on how much sleep you got. For women, the time of month, your body chemistry. Like you can change, but we all actually have like a default gut reaction, like where we typically go to on this spectrum. Someone who's action-oriented is going to talk more, is going to make faster decisions, is going to keep us moving, right? Someone who's analytical is going to be sitting back, listening, waiting to take in lots of data points because they want to make sure we don't miss an important perspective here and wants more time before we make decisions. So how this plays out in a meeting, action-oriented folks are talking. All right, anyone else okay, great. Well, we'll just make this decision and here we go. Analytical folks are like, oh my gosh, what a steamroller. I tried to speak up and I got cut off, and I have some concerns and I have some questions, but you know what? Decision was made, and that was a half-an-hour meeting, and we are done here. I am stressed out and concerned. Action-oriented people even, they think, my goodness, that person did not seem engaged. I don't know if they care. Not sure they're paying attention here. But that's not what's happening. It's the fact that if you could actually see maybe someone is just operating in a different strength than you could find a better way to partner. Imagine if the action-oriented people knew this about themselves and stopped and said, you know what? Anybody have questions? And leave a good 30 seconds for people to actually think before they speak up. That would change so much, right? But action-oriented people think it doesn't take 30 seconds to come up with something to talk about. But some folks need more time to think. So I also hope you see we need both of these. We need people pulling us forward, and we need people making sure that we're not missing important things, which brings us to our second bucket. Big picture thinkers versus detail-oriented people. Big picture thinkers are thinking about the future and themes, like, oh, the market opportunity is this way, right? Detail-oriented people are thinking about what happened yesterday, what happened the past 3 years, what happened in the past that's informing where we're going, and what can we constantly be gleaning from that in very specifics that can make sure we're successful here. I always hear stories like, I saw a problem, I worked real hard on a solution, I was pitching it to the team, and somebody, that same one, just started asking questions, so many questions, and I just felt the doubt. The doubt just entered the room and influenced everybody else there, and I feel exhausted and totally defeated now. And what happened was, it was a big picture thinker pitching something and a detail-oriented person asking questions, and you feel like they don't like my idea, they don't like me, but really it could be that detail-oriented person thinks it's a fantastic idea. They just want to understand how it's going to work, and they're going to ask a bunch of questions, right? Last bucket that I'll talk about, there's really infinite, but the last one I'll talk about is values-driven versus logic-driven. So values-driven people often talk in, I feel overwhelmed. I feel excited. I feel like this is a good opportunity. Logic-driven people, it's think. I think, 1 + 1 = 2, and I think we're going to do this. I'm more values-driven. My co-founder is more logic-driven. And a few years ago, I was feeling very overwhelmed. I had 4 roles I was playing, and one of them I was totally dropping the ball. And I went to him, and I said, you know what, Darren? I'm feeling overwhelmed. I am not able to cover this general thematic area of customer success, and I'm concerned about our success as a company. If we don't take care of this, I think we need to hire for customer success. Darren responds, I think we need to think about how we're prioritizing. Maybe you could just move some things around, reprioritize, and blah, blah, blah. I was so frustrated. I was stressed, y'all. I was losing sleep. I was like, why can't I communicate this effectively? What's wrong with me? Why isn't Darren listening? Just tension, right? And Cloverleaf emailed me a tip that said, hey, try to persuade Darren with facts and bullet points. And I was like, duh, I freaking invented this thing. I should think this way, right? But it's so unnatural. And so I go into a meeting with Darren. I'm like, hey, Darren, here's the things I'm getting to. The general things I'm doing really well at. Here's the things I'm doing bullet points, not so great at. And then here's the stuff that's it's just not even happening. What do you think we should do here? And he looks at the list and he goes, I think we should hire for customer success. And I was like, hallelujah, there you go. So, but it was that we just were approaching the same thing with a different way of communicating because we think differently, because we have cognitive diversity. And I hope you see in this, we need this. And we all have it hidden beneath the surface at our workplaces. We have this cognitive diversity. We just don't know it's there, and we don't know how it's influencing tensions, but we also don't know its potential to release us, to do better work, to be a psychologically safe, high-performing team where we're more successful individually and collectively. So what can you do? What you going to do to influence this? Whether you're a single founder on your own and your team is 1099s and potential new customers and investors you're pitching, or you're an entry-level employee at P&G, at a really large organization. What can you do to help influence this? There's a couple of practical things you can do. First of all, talk positively about differences. Get to know, what are the differences of you and the people that you're working with? One of the easiest ways you can do this, by the way, to get to know these differences is go and take an assessment. Go take a behavioral assessment, a strengths assessment. You can find them for free online. You can take free ones on Cloverleaf. They're real easy to come by. Just Google it. And you'll be able to see like, oh my goodness, that person is a critical thinker and I am an emotional processor. That's interesting. What's the difference there? And then you'll start to realize, you know what? I'm so glad you're questioning these critical details because I need that help, right? And then you can talk positively, talk open in your teams. Hey, I'm so glad you're different than me. I don't think that way. I actually find that very exhausting. Thank you so much for covering that gap, right? The next thing you can do, it's really simple, take an active listening training or just like go Google it and read about active listening tactics. You're going to read it and you're going to be like, yeah, duh. And then you're going to go to do it and you're going to say, wow, this is super uncomfortable and really unnatural. And then you're going to do it and then you're going to say, oh my goodness, I just learned so much I would not have otherwise learned. So active listening sounds really obvious, very unnatural. Go learn more about it. The next thing is Amy Edmondson has a Tedx talk called Building a Psychologically Safe Workplace. Super fantastic. It's like, 10 minutes. It's short. It's not a long commitment. Watch it with your team and talk, hey, how are we doing on this? And how might we do better on, become more psychologically safe? When have you felt like it's not safe to have a different perspective? That kind of stuff. Have just an open conversation with your team. I can't not mention Cloverleaf because literally I know this problem because I talk to people so that I can build the product that helps solve this problem. So I'll just real quick say, you can come on Cloverleaf, take free assessments, get a free team dashboard, see where you are. Oh, I'm here and my coworker's over there. Of course we're different, right? And you can experience team coaching, automated team coaching. You can get a 2-week free trial and get it pushed into your inbox. Hey, you're good at this, they're good at this, try these tactics with each other, right? You can experience that. Just go to cloverleaf.me, sign up for a free trial. And then the last thing I'd say is model this. It is unnatural in our culture for somebody to actually view differences as valuable. We don't listen to each other very much, and we definitely don't think, that was a different perspective. Tell me more. I'm really interested, right? We have to defend ourselves. We have to prove ourselves. And so when you start to actually get curious about this, slow down, and value the differences, you're going to stand out. Even if this is your first week on the job, you're gonna stand out and start to influence a change in the culture. Even if you're a solo founder, and this is just how you approach your investor conversations or your, potential new customer conversations, it will be noted. It will stand out. And it will start to influence the culture, and it'll start to let everyone chill out a little bit more and have a higher sense of well-being. And if you remember nothing from this talk except for my crazy preacher man story, just remember next time you feel tension rising, don't say you, say we. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kirsten. I don't know if you guys are convinced to get Cloverleaf, but I sure am. I'd love to know, Kirsten, what was that aha moment for you and Darren when you guys were thinking about starting a company? What really drove home this idea of Cloverleaf for you guys?
Oh, that's such a good question. So we actually started this company thinking that we were going to do recruiting. Like we had worked in this great company called Epifio, had an awesome culture, and some people didn't fit. And we thought, you could use personality assessments to show someone like you're really going to enjoy this team you're about to work with, or you might not enjoy it. And a lot of customer interviews, MVP, and investor pitches later, we realized, adding someone to a dysfunctional team doesn't help very much. Let's try to flip the team. And people started telling us, I love your team building software. And so we thought, that's really interesting. So yeah, there was not the one moment where we suddenly knew we were going to do automated coaching. It was a journey of listening to the market.
And I think that's a characteristic of a great startup company is that pivot, that pivot from that initial idea to something that's really going to change the world, really, in the workplace.